Hi guys, today we'll learn the login process with Spring Boot and Angular. Angular will be the front end. So now I am doing Spring Boot. So I go to start.spring.io and there I will set the dependencies and download the files. So you can see this is the page. So here I for me it's for Maven project and I use Java 8. So I just checked it's Java 8 and the Spring version is latest one, that is the stable one, that is just 2.3.0. So here in the group section I will put my company name here, that com.hi5 protect, and the artifact name should be the project name. So in the dependency section, I will add two dependencies. One is, you can see, that is Spring Web, and another is Spring Security. Spring Security is important for us for this project because we are using JWT. So after selecting everything, I click on the generate. So you can see it will be, yeah, you can see it will be generated and downloaded. So so I click on that file and unzip it. And then I will go to the Eclipse and I will import this project. This is for Maven project, so I will import it as a Maven project. So I will search it here, Maven. Yes. Here is this the project. So by default it will take the pom.xml and it should be checked. And after clicking finish, so it will take a total time of 1 to 3 minutes for me. It depends on the internet speed. So it will download all the dependencies like Spring Web dependencies, Spring security dependencies, those things. So you can see it's downloaded and the project is ready right now. So I can also run it as a new project. So I will create a class. So it's for the controller class. It's for the test controller. So I need to check it's working or not. So here you can see I put the class name and the package. Package should be a controller because this is the good practice. You should put all the controller class into a same package, that is the controller package. So you can see this class is created and I will add REST controller because we are using Spring Boot, and REST controllers means controller plus response body. So REST controller is a part of Spring framework, Spring Web framework. So now I will create a function and add request mapping. So request mapping is used for the URL mapping. So if I hit test, then it will move to that particular mapping. So here I will return a string so that I can check it is working or not. So it's error because I put void as a return type. It should be string. Okay, so it's ready currently. So I will click on the run. So if you are using STS, then you will get Spring Boot run as Spring Boot. Here I use Eclipse, so that's why it's run as Java program. So for Spring Boot, we need not need any extra server like Tomcat or any others like WebLogic. If Spring Boot has its own server that is embedded Tomcat, so if we want to use any other server, we can use it. Just simply we need to exclude it in the pom.xml. So here you can see it's running currently. It's already started. So if I go to that link, we'll get a login page because we use Spring Security inside it and we haven't configured it. So I cannot go to that page right now. So here you can see this is a login page of default login page of Spring Security itself. So now I will configure step by step of the Spring Security first, then I will go to the JWT token. So currently I am doing the user table where I will put the username and password. So currently I am doing the hard-coded username and password. In the next tutorial, I will show you how we can incorporate these things with the database. So we need to add database because username and password should be stored into the database. That things I will discuss in the next tutorial. So here I put the name of custom user details and Spring provides on user details service, that is inbuilt service for Spring. So I need to implement these things because Spring should know that we are using that service. So it's a service class and we need to override a method so that Spring will fetch by default it. So I will put the username as Partho here and password should as Kolkata. So it's currently it's hard coded and later on time I will add these things into the database. So in the third parameter we need to put the role list. So it's for the authorization part. So here I will create as dummy because currently we are not using any role specific authorization here. So just I just leave it as a blank list. So here I need to import the user details class. It's Spring itself. So I just imported it. And you can see the compilation successful. Now I am going to add sorry, now I am going to add security configuration. So here I will put it into the config file. I just make it as security config class name and put it in the config package. So it should be extend web security it should be extend web security configuration adapter, and there is a method I need to override it. So I need to auto add up currently created that things, the custom user details class is a basically service class. So currently I'm going to configure the Spring security things here. So here I need to add the user details class. So here my user details class variable name is user details service. That things I have added here. So we are not using any encoder here. So I will put here. Yeah, I will put just that things here because Spring security always search the password encoder. So here I will put just no op password encoder things. So it's currently the Spring Boot 2.3. It's actually depreciated, but I can for time being we can use this one. So for this we need to add a bin, but here I do not think any override is required. So I will remove the override section from here. So here I will run as a Spring application, as Java application. Oh, actually it's already running one in the one port. I need to stop the server. So if you need do not want to restart the server again and again, so you can use dev tool. If you incorporate dev tool in your project, then server will be automatically restarted after every changes, every Java class changes. But if you change any property file, then it will not restart. For time being, I am not using dev tool here. So you can see Spring application started. So I will check it's working or not. So I will hit the new controller, test controller. So I can check it's not working. Let me check the code. So I found an error here. That is, so I missed anything here. Let me check. Oh, I forgot to add the enable web security annotation. Otherwise Spring will search the config file, so it will not able to create any bean for that. So again I will start these things. Here you can see it's started now. So let me try to hit test URL. Okay, so add Partho and Kolkata, password is Kolkata. So here it's working. I just put the wrong password and it's showing bad credential. Here you go. You can see hi there means everything is working currently for using Spring security. We haven't used JWT yet, so I will add two dependencies for JWT. Oh, okay. So here just I put in the wrong place. So preferable place is in below section of the Spring security, because it's the same part. So it's related to Spring security. That's why I put here. But if you put anywhere in the pom.xml, it will work. So after adding these things, I need to update the Maven. So here in the Maven, update Maven project, always try to check force update. So it will take another 1 to 2 minutes to download all the dependency related to JWT. Here you go. So you can see there is no error, compilation error or runtime error in the Spring Boot project. So I will add another class. So I will a class is helper class of the JWT. So in the JWT helper class, it will configure like creating a token and creating a fetching the expiry date, like that. So I will create a package for this, that is the utility package. The new helper class. This is a service class. So I just make it service and providing the service annotation here. So there I need to provide a secret key here. This key should not be exposed to the public, because these are very important things. Because when we are going to incorporate this code with the Angular code, and the interaction between these two things using the security code itself. So I just paste the basic functionality here. So I didn't write here. So you can see there are important method here is, so extract username means this class will extract the username from the token, and here you can see the create token, and we are using the standard algorithm for this. And this is the expiry date, set expiration, how long token will be active, that things we need to put here. So and another valid token and these things we need to remember, because every JWT we need to configure these classes. Now I am going to configure two model, that is the request and response model for the auth. So here I will add here authenticate requests. So I will add two variables here. One is for username, another is for password. Because when request comes to Spring Security, it should contain two things, that is username and password. For the first time when JWT token will be generated. So I will create a getter and setter of this. But if you do not want to create getter and setter and constructor, so you can use Lombok getter and setter functionality. So for the time being, I haven't used it, but in the later section, I will use it. So here I need to create a blank constructor or no argument constructor. And so I put these two classes into model package. So now I am going to create response things. So currently I am just going to display only the JWT into the response. So I make it as a final because no one will change it later on. So I will assign the token value from constructor itself. So I will just create a get of that things. So add here the argument constructor, and I will create another constructor for the no argument constructor. So here you can see the compiler will restrict the no argument constructor because of the final variable. So if we use any final variable into the class, that should be initialized through a constructor. So here I add another class. So I will create another controller class for the authenticate purpose. So this controller will be responsible to generate the token and send it back to the user. So I add the generic controller, base controller, and I will add the request mapping here. The path should be the request. I will add the post mapping here, because we are getting the username and password through post, because post is a secure way. We do if we want to use get, you can use it, but always prefer to use put or post method here. So using response entity, you can see I add the return type as response entity. So using response entity, we can send back the data we along with the status, like HTTP status. So like 200 means it is successfully executed, like 500 means there is internal server error, 401 that is unauthorized. That things we can add using response entity. So parameter should, you can use any parameter. You can use the Pojo class which I have added here, that is the authenticate request. I just I here you can see there is a compilation error. Oh, I made a mistake here. That should be authenticate request, not authentication request. So here you can see I just rename it. You can see this is the authenticate request, not authorization. So I put here the same name, and you can see there is there is again the compilation error because we haven't returned the response entity, because we are using post HTTP method. So aim should be caps. So I just put the wrong slash here. Just I make it correct. So here I just put the return type so that that would be not any compilation error. So I haven't declared that variable, so I am not able to return that things. So first I need to declare the variable here. So JWT Helper class will help us to create token and validate that things, and custom user details, that things we can get the password related things, like if the user put the right password or wrong password, we can check it from custom user details class. So I put here wrong mapping, that should be request mapping. Sorry, request body, because we are getting the request from the user, that should be request body, not response. So to for any type of any type of code, like if there is chances to get an error, so we can put try catch block. So here we have a chance to get error of bad credential exception. So here this is a Spring class, the user password authentication token. We need to pass here the parameters. So here I need to pass the request dot username and password to check it's correct, or it's automatically mapped with the required class. So we have initialized the auth manager here. If there is any error using username and password, so we can catch it using that catch block, that bad credential, and we will throw it so that it will not move into the next code. So always try to use the proper exception message so that in later of time we can easily track these things. This is a Spring class, user details class. So I will load the I will call the load method. Okay, both name I have put the similar name, so I need to rename these things. Here you can see this is a load user by username. Here you can see there is two same name, that's why it's conflict. We can also use these operators. So now I am using the different name. So I am trying to pass the project class, the auth request class. That should be the variable name, not the class name. So there is two parameters, one is for username, another is for password. So I will pass these two things here. So now I am just call the helper class to generate token. Once token is generated, this will be passed to the response body. So now you can see there is a compilation error. So this was a spelling mistake of that name, so I fixed it. Now I need to configure some of the things in the config class. I will create a config method here that should be overridden method of Spring Web Security. CSRF, we need to disable these things because otherwise we cannot call from outside, cannot call this method from the outside. Otherwise you will get crop policy error. So we need to make it that is the public URL. We need not need any username or password for that. So that's why we are config these things like in the you can see in and match this URL and permit all. That means it this URL do not need any password. So we can execute this URL without having any password. So and any other request, it should be authenticated. You can see I just make it any other request and any other request that is authenticated, means any for any other request we need to authenticate that things. So we need to implement a default bean for that. So that is the authentication manager. We need to create a bean for that. This is the this is a class of that Spring Web Security. So I need to override these things. So please try to use override annotation as much as possible so that you can get the compilation error and not having the runtime error. So just run this application. So it started now. So using browser, I cannot call the authenticate method because we are using post method. That's why I am using Postman here. So you can download Postman, it's free version. So using Postman, we can pass two parameters, username and password. And username and password should be similar as we provided it. So in the body section, we will pass it, and we need to use the post mapping. So here you can see JWT token has been generated. So I just make it wrong password. Let's see what will happen. So here you can get the internal server error. So it's working perfectly fine. So now I need to use filter method because this is for the authenticate, and for each and every request we need to pass this token to get these things. So I will create a filter method here. So I am just make a name of it JWT security request filter. So every request, when every request comes, it should be go to that filter once. I need to implement the interface here. I put it here in the config file, and I need to implement one interface, that is one. Sorry, I need to extend one method, that is one per request filter, not implements, it is class. Sorry for that. So it's for the component class. So I need to add the component annotation. So inside the do filter, we will add all the parameter, all the conditional parameters. How we will handle the request when request comes, how we will handle it. So I just pass it auth. You can also use authorization. Better to use authorization here. Just timing, I am just using auth. Authorization header should not be null, because if postman send a request null without any authorization header, that means it should go to that request. So each and every request which is included in the security, that should be pass a token, authorization token. And it should be dash, but for any other for any if you want to use any other split method, you can use like space bar, or like barrier token, you can use barrier. So as of now, just I create dash, because if you want like a token dash, then token name, that things also will work. And if you want to add like b dash token value, then it will also work. That's why I put dash. So every time I need that custom user details class, because this is a very important class. It always get the username and password. This class provides username and password. I forgot to add the rate here, that's why it's the error. So shortcut key of import the classes is Ctrl Alt O. Sorry, Ctrl Shift O. That will if there is two classes that implements that method or class, then it will show. Otherwise, it will automatically import. So I just make two array here to split that things, like for the JWT ones and the other things. That's why I split these things, and second part will be the JWT token. So you can see I just extract it from the helper class, JWT helper class. So the username should not be null, because if the token is valid, then that should contain the username. So I need to check the token is valid or not, because token has its own expiry time. That's why I just put it here. So user details, this is the Spring class. So after adding these things, we need to forward this request to that specific controller. Chain will do for us. In the in the security config file, we need to add some parameters. Like when request comes, it should be moved to the filter request method. That things we need to configure here. So always try to use stateless, because if we use JWT, it should be stateless, because we do not need to use session. So one advantage of this, so server will not store any user related data like token, session ID, like that. And and disadvantage is if you authenticate twice thrice every second, then it will create new token every time, because server will generate token based on your request, and it will not store into the server session. So I need to add filter before, because when every request comes here, we need to add filter. We need to add, it will check that this is the valid token or not. If this is a valid token, then we will move to that controller. I need to variable or object of that class. Not we are not passing that class, so I need to make a object of that and put it the auto add. Now we are using that object here. So you can see there is no compilation error right now. So I will run this code. So you can see it started. Now I just go to that method authenticate. I got that token. I just copy the token here and pass here. So b dash means you can put any string here, and you can also use the dash. And I will prefer you should use any other, like space or like that. So I add here and get the output. And if you get any error, please use space here in the split section. And please use this is standard, I will use it. If you will get any like time reset time error or like that, validity time error, so you can use these things. Okay, thank you guys for watching this. Please do not forget to subscribe, like and share this channel. Thank you so much.